a very wet day as yesterday. So, good.
You met President Biden as one of the 6 heads of state from Africa who got a one-on-one meeting with him. How did the meeting go, and what were your takeaways from the meeting?
Well, I would say it's a very constructive meeting because it's basically talking about resetting our relationship between the United States of America and Africa. There is a lot of history between the two, and there has been a drop in the relationship for a while, and we think this is not good for international relations. It's not good for development, multilateralism, and the many things that we want to do at the highest levels. So we came together to discuss how we can resuscitate this relationship. And of course, there are concerns about what is happening in Africa, especially with regards to security, threats to security, the economic crisis, the resurgence of military coups, etc., and how we can help to deal with these challenges, global challenges.
So you attended the U.S.-Africa Leadership Summit. A lot of bilateral agreements and business deals were done. What was your impression? Were your expectations met? And what are you taking back to Sierra Leone to help the people of Sierra Leone?
Well, I think that's one of the most important things for high-level meetings of this nature, a summit. It is not just what we say in the halls, but what happens in the little rooms around. I had the opportunity again to meet with MCC and to consolidate our relationship with the MCC that is going to spend at least nothing less than 350 million as grant to Sierra Leone. There are a few hiccups with the compact, but of course we amicably went through those, and we are now on the same page. We have met several other groups. I'm just from a meeting with other groups that are interested in Sierra Leone. Of course, they are very mindful of the fact that we go to elections in about 6 months, and a lot of companies are always a little jittery or careful, mindful, of the fact that elections can be quite disruptive. But I've told them that we are going to keep the pace. It's the stability, and because we are paying more attention to development rather than politics, we don't want any slowdown in activities once they concern development. So there are quite a lot of interesting discussions, meetings that I wouldn't say have come to fruition at this point in time, but they are very promising, and I'm happy that I had those meetings.
Mr. President, will Sierra Leone be ready, or is Sierra Leone ready for business, especially investors, those that you spoke with? Are there mechanisms or measures implemented to ensure that when they come in, their business interests and their investments will be protected? And will there be conflict resolution mechanisms? If there's a conflict, it could be resolved amicably?
You're talking about the business environment, the climate. We have worked on that, and we continue to pay keen attention to the business environment. My business is to make sure that I attract some of the most patient investors who will go there to invest for the mutual benefit of our country and also their own corporate entities. We have a few companies already from the US and other parts of the world operating in Sierra Leone, which means that we have a climate that permits the establishment and functioning. So we of course, we've had challenges or conflicts, and we are able to resolve them, especially as recent as, I think, 2 years ago. We had a serious challenge with an American company mining iron ore, and we were able to find a solution. I just saw them as as a matter of fact. So which means we are ready. They are going in, they are operating, and where we've had challenges, we found a way out. That is conflicts are part of human relationship. And our business is to make sure that we incorporate into our governance structure mechanisms that can always deal with them as and when they arise. But we are ready. We continue to work on the business climate. We have put very progressive policies in place. And anything that will make us attractive as a destination for foreign direct investment, we will do, because that is what caters for the needs of our people best.
Mr. President, a lot of civil society groups and even the First Lady have been expressing concern about gender-based violence. The First Lady has championed the cause of Hands Off Our Girls campaign. I understand there's a bill that is waiting for you to accent to it, to sign, the Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment Bill. What entails in this bill? Because when you sign it, it becomes law. What do you want this to achieve? And how will this protect victims of gender-based violence?
What is contained in the bill, it's our goodies for women. It actually lays the foundation for the liberation of our women, to close the gender gap. That is the best way to put it. Of course, it took us a long time as a male society dominantly to accept that. It's been in Parliament for 8 months, but we got it out, and in the form and manner in which we want it. It basically gives 30% of representation in Parliament to women, and in all spheres of governance, even in corporate governance. It is now incumbent upon us to really see how we can implement that to make sure that we start to close the gender gap. It is the gender gap, closing the gender gap is what this bill is really about. And that is what we have started. Before today, they did not have the chance. Women, we are not considered equal partners in development. And what we are saying is that you cannot say you're serious about development and you lock up more than 50% of your energy in the kitchen or somewhere else and then expect to make progress. For me, like I said, we are a development-oriented government, and therefore all the energy needed is what we want to unleash. And the women power, the component of the women have been missing. So we are giving quite a lot is done. In fact, before that, in Sierra Leone today, because of my own policy in education, all guys doing STEM courses or discipline can actually go to school free from pre-primary to the end of university once you are doing STEM courses. It will interest you to know that they have actually vindicated us, the girls, and they led the transition exam to university this year and in the past couple of years. So guys are leading now. And it is even more interesting to note that most of them actually applied for engineering because the girls, because they know that we are ready to pay for them. So quite a lot is happening in Sierra Leone for women and girls, and this bill is just a part of it. You're talking about protection of women. I had to declare a national emergency on rape, and we have toughened the laws on sexual and gender-based violence. We have even set up special courts to deal with them quickly, as and when there is need for them. And the First Lady has embarked on a national campaign which is ongoing called the Hands Off Our Girls, basically advocating for the girl child, to give them chance to go to school instead of giving their hands in marriage in a very tender age, teenage pregnancy, menstruation hygiene. So she distributes hygiene pads for them. Quite a lot is happening under very difficult circumstances, but I think the driving force has been the level of commitment, genuine commitment to making sure that we actually prepare Sierra Leone for the development it needs so that our people can be part of the 21st century, which means you have to unleash the power of women. And to unleash the power of women in future, you have to prepare the current generation of girls that are going to school.
Mr. President, with a male-dominated society such as Sierra Leone and most African countries, one would expect a little bit of resistance with this law or this policy that you're coming with. How do you plan to surmount it or deal with it? Because obviously it will start from families and then it will get to the national stage. How do you plan to surmount those challenges?
Well, that is natural. No one gives away power very easily. It starts from me as the leader to convince my people that if we mean development, we need to make progress in life. We cannot leave the women folk behind. They are equally intellectually strong if we prepare them, if we empower them, and they are naturally partners in development. And if you are serious about anything, you need a strong partner. So you must prepare by empowering, and also to understand that they are not any inferior in terms of how we consider ourselves, the male, the macho attitude. So gender equality is very much part of us. And to underscore the point you're trying to make, it took 8 months for this bill to go through. So there has been a lot of discussion. But I have also been very consistent to say that we cannot be talking about development and not consider the women as equal partners in this process. And we have started to get our way, and we are going to continue to use the same tactics, getting our men folk to understand that we have partners who are waiting. They only need to be empowered. They only need to be considered as partners, and we can actually get what we want in Africa: development, progress. And we have the partners in our homes, as our sisters, as our mothers. We only need to give them the space. So which means quite a lot of things, empowering them through education, empowerment through business opportunities, access to financial inclusion. And we have gone even to the extent of talking about what we call radical inclusion. The young girls can easily fall prey to many manipulations, and they can be pregnant before they get out of school. And it has always been a point where they drop out of school and they're not able, and they become liability to society, to themselves, for the rest of their lives because of a singular mistake in their lives, which we all make. We make several mistakes in our lives. But once a girl makes that mistake, it's been like almost a punishment for the rest of her life. We are saying no. Radical inclusion, part of radical inclusion means that that girl must be able to come back to school. We'll support her to continue her education. We'll support her to continue her education even after giving birth. And of course, another part of radical inclusion means wherever you are, whoever you are, whatever the state of your body, whether you are disabled, physically, whether you are in the village, whether you are poor, your color, or whatever you look, political persuasion, education is meant for all, and no one should be left behind. So it's difficult, of course, to implement such a policy, but we have worked very hard because of genuine commitment to progress, to put everybody on board. And the men are beginning to understand. They are grudgingly coming around, but they will willingly come around as we get on.
So, Mr. President, let's talk about education, because 22% of your budget is earmarked for education. Some of your critics are saying they are A, unsustainable, And two, you will not have the resources to target your priority areas, and that it will not last long. Should you win re-election, a new government comes in, they might stop it. So how do you react, or how do you respond to such criticisms and concerns that 22% is too much?
Well, it is an existential thing, education, in the 21st century, and looming on the verge of a fourth industrial revolution, which is going to be completely digital. It is even more compelling that you have an educated population. To not do it means you are spelling your own doom. I cannot lead a country that does not take that seriously. I am preparing this country, Sierra Leone, for the future. We have been at the receiving end of the first, second, and third industrial revolutions. The fourth is looming. We cannot be there. We have to be equal participants in that revolution. We cannot be at the receiving end, and the best way is to make sure that everybody is part of the education process. Expensive, yes, expensive, but less expensive than ignorance, than illiteracy in the 21st century. It is even dangerous to talk about that, because even for us who claim to be educated, our skills and knowledge are becoming obsolete. We have to upgrade, we have to upskill. Otherwise, the world is moving at such a pace that you should keep upgrading. So, if you want to continue to exist as a nation, it is better to spend now than to spare doom for your country. So, where there is a will, there will always be a way. And that is why I've been pushing very hard. And we are dealing with a crisis already in financing, and we are finding means to do that, to find a way to finance, because it is not a cosmetic move. It is not meant to bring votes. It is meant to, like I said, it's an existential thing. It is meant to keep us going, to make us a productive and useful part of the 21st century. So for me, I'm working very hard to win the election. That is the first thing I'm doing. And Sierra Leoneans are beginning to understand, because the keys themselves that we are catering for education have started to vindicate us by the quality and quantitatively and qualitatively. They are passing the transition exams in huge numbers and passing, at one go, getting all the university requirements. So people are also beginning to buy into this, and it will be a disaster, national disaster, much more than any other natural disaster, to not want to continue. We are going to win the next election.
Talking about the election, Mr. President, some of your critics are saying the political space has been narrowed. The government is using state institutions to suppress them. How do you respond to such criticisms that the political space has been narrowed just so Mr. President will win re-election?
Well, I won the election when it was closed. I have opened it up since I came by several actions, and you can actually relate to those. When we came in, we had in our laws the death penalty, and that has been used notoriously in the past by ruling governments to actually suppress. They dangle it, you can be framed, and it could easily be called treason, and they will lock you up or you lose your life. I have taken that off the law books. Very few people, not even the previous governments who claimed to be democratic, had the audacity to do that. That is one, and that speaks clearly about who I am. Also, the seditious libel law, which kept people like you cowed So you don't just say what you want to say. You don't ask several questions as you are asking today. In Sierra Leone, journalists are free. There is no journalist in prison for the practice of journalism, except if you do something else. And that has been our law books also for more than half a century. If you are doing this, are you restricting the space? So what we meant was representative democracy. What I am doing is liberal democracy. I have always led when it comes to democracy in Sierra Leone. I came in 1996, and I said, after nearly 30 years of no election, of authoritarian rule, I conducted the first democratic election, and that has continued up to today. Where I left off was just representative democracy. Now I've brought about liberal democracy, the freedoms that go with that. So we are opening up the space. The parliament is there. It's a hung parliament. We debate issues, and we convince even our strongest opponents to go along with us, like in the gender bill that we just discussed, and we voted that through. So democracy is never easy, but anybody wanting to claim that we are closing that space does so without any tangible reason. But I have so many, So we haven't done anything to restrict, to narrow the space. We have even opened up, and we believe that we are doing good things for our people, and quite a lot, and we can win on that credit.
Mr. President, will you assure the people of Sierra Leone that the Independent National Electoral Commission would administer free, fair, transparent, credible elections, that Sierra Leoneans themselves will freely go to the polls and choose who their next leader will be?
That is a given. That body was created first in 1996, and I did it. And it's existed, it has a history of, I wouldn't say checkered, we've had challenges with it, but that is what has been doing our elections. That body has supervised our elections since 1996. Nothing has been done to distort its governance structure, and they have all the free hand to do what they can do so that we can have a free and credible election come June 2024. So I regard democracy in Sierra Leone as my baby. So I will do everything to nourish it. I will not be the one to interfere into the workings of the National Electoral Commission for my political. What I do is work very hard, convince my people that I'm genuinely concerned about their future and their welfare, and that should earn me votes. That's how I've won. I won against a sitting government.
Is the commission well resourced to carry out its mandate?
That is a problem, because even the government is not well resourced to run under the circumstances. But what we have done, and we are appealing to partners, that you just can't sit and say, no, democracy. Democracy is quite expensive. I mean, putting everything together to make sure that we have a credible election means financial input, technical input. So we also are asking for financial support, technical support, to make sure that the body is not found wanting in terms of those areas. But we have provided everything that we possibly can, financial resources, to make sure they get the basics. So far, it's working.
Before we go, Mr. President, recently there was a protest. Several police officers were killed. Some government offices were burnt down, attacked. But some of your critics are saying that your government used this protest as a pretext to clamp down on the opposition, to intimidate and harass them, arrest some people as a means so you will win re-election. I'm sure you've heard some of these criticisms. What's your response to that?
Baseless, because I've been there for over 4 years. We never went after any opposition. So, if we should go after them after, that was not a protest, it was a riot that targeted the very core of our democratic existence, which is the law enforcement. If it was a protest, we will not lose 6 policemen in just few hours that they came out. It was organized, and it was mostly supported and organized, financed by the opposition. But because it's such a shameful act in today's world, they were hiding behind their fingers, but we could see them. So we let the law go after those who were involved and who were involved in the organization. That is all we did. And I saw in Germany last week, I think, they said there was a coup. They rounded up quite a lot of people, and they're still rounding up people. That is what happens when you have such an episodic eruption of violence where people needlessly lose their lives. It's my responsibility as head of state to make sure that it is investigated. And that time, whoever, if you in the opposition cannot use democratic means, then you are definitely not a part of the movement we are trying to do, which is democracy in Sierra Leone. So all of those, nobody was unnecessarily invited or arrested or investigated. It is those who are directly involved in that organization. It was not a protest, it was a riot.
Mr. President, before your final words, what will be your major takeaways after you've attended this U.S. Africa Leadership Summit? I was informed that you had several bilateral and multilateral meetings with U.S. government officials and some investors. So what will be your major takeaways as you head back to Sierra Leone?
Well, I live with a pleasant feeling that the United States is returning to the continent, and that the continent is also prepared to welcome the United States, be it both at the level of government, corporate institutions, and that we are prepared. We also want to make sure that they go with the knowledge that we don't have it all. We don't have all the infrastructure. We are a developing democracy. All our T's have not been crossed or I's dotted. And you go with such expectations. And that if we work together, we can actually cross the T's and dot the I's together. And we have a beautiful democracy where we will all live happily thereafter.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Thank you.